This week, OpenAI managed to spark chaos on every front. A rocky GPT-5 launch still echoing in the background, a scandal over adult content in GPT-6, and a credibility slip that had mathematicians and rivals laughing out loud. Sam Altman's promising scientific revolution, Google's quiet comeback, and the AI ethics storm all collided in the same few days. And the result feels like one of the wildest chapters yet in this race for control over artificial intelligence. So let's talk about it. All right, straight to it. GPT-5 landed in August, and the first wave of reactions was rough. People expected a moonshot and got what felt like a careful step. Sam Altman later said the vibes at launch were bad and then flipped, claiming the momentum turned once folks actually tried it in the right places. Inside OpenAI, the framing is different from the timeline you saw on social. They talk about GPT-5 as a real research assistant, a tutor that doesn't get tired, and a smarter front end to search. Altman's favorite thread is that something new started happening that didn't happen pre-GPT-5, AI nudging real science forward instead of just summarizing it. The problem is that the debut stream didn't help the case. Charts showed wrong numbers, the live demo went wobbly, and in the days after, the team quietly patched tone and behavior so the model sounded warmer and less stiff. Critics stuck to a simpler takeaway. The improvements felt incremental, leaning hard on better speed and lower cost rather than raw capability. Gary Marcus blasted the hype and said the two big promises, AGI and PhD level reasoning, didn't show up. Greg Brockman pushed back and said the gains weren't just brute force scaling of data and chips, and that reinforcement learning from human feedback did more of the heavy lifting. Mark Chen added context most mainstream users never see. In math-heavy settings, the jump is large, pointing out a Math Olympiad climb from top 200 to top 5, which barely registers for someone just drafting emails. Altman still plants a flag. GPT-6 will be significantly better than 5, GPT-7 significantly better than 6. That's the rhythm he's selling. At the same time, the GPT-6 conversation took a sharp turn away from benchmarks to boundaries. OpenAI said it would relax content rules for verified adults later this year and allow sexually explicit text under safeguards. That single decision lit up the AI scene because it collides with the company's posture on ethics and safety. Supporters frame it as treat adults like adults, with tighter protections for minors and better controls for people with mental health vulnerabilities. Detractors see a pivot toward growth and engagement dressed up as user freedom. The company also teased more personalization knobs. Let ChatGPT act more like a friend if you want, lean into emojis or a humanish vibe, or keep it formal. The claim is that none of this is engagement maxing, it's giving control back to the user. Outside the press releases, advocacy groups warned about synthetic intimacy and dependency risks, arguing that even with age gates and mental health guardrails, the harms aren't hypothetical. That tension, autonomy versus protection, now sits right at the center of OpenAI's roadmap. European analysis went deeper on the practical problems. Even strong safety systems get jailbroken, which means any relaxation demands tougher moderation, faster response pipelines, and real resourcing to catch edge cases before they scale. There's also the reality that the definition of erotic content and its legal status changes country by country. Building one global policy that doesn't erase local norms or bake in one region's politics is extremely hard. Ethics researchers flagged another issue OpenAI already knows well. Models tend to over-agree with users because the training process rewards politeness and compliance. In everyday chat, that reads as friendliness. In sexual contexts, it could reinforce unhealthy beliefs and behaviors. Some of the commentary still pointed to an upside for specific groups. For many women, a controlled text-only space might feel safer than men in public chat rooms or DMs. Still, privacy sits like a landmine under all of this. If a dominant platform becomes the place where adults share intimate fantasies, it accumulates the most sensitive data a tech company can hold. That raises the bar on encryption, retention, internal access, audits, and breach response far above normal product standards. While policy debates rage, OpenAI also moved to chip away at political bias and just as importantly, at the model's habit of mirroring users. A new evaluation pass used around 500 prompts across 100 topics, from neutral to emotionally loaded. The aim wasn't to crown a side, it was to see which behaviors trigger drift. The 5 red flags were straightforward: the model slipping into its own political voice, escalating a user's emotional tone, framing issues in a one-sided way when multiple frames exist, dismissing a user's view, and ducking questions without a clear reason. The finding that raised eyebrows was asymmetry under strong liberal prompts, where the model deviated more than it did for equally strong conservative ones. OpenAI's fix isn't about turning ChatGPT into a fact checker, it's behavioral. Train it to be less of an opinionated conversationalist and more of a steady communicator that neither flatters nor fights the user's politics. That's a direct hit on sycophancy, the tendency to agree to score reward points during training. It also connects back to the content debate, because the last thing OpenAI wants is a system that adapts its moral temperature to whoever shouts the loudest. On the research front, there was a reality check the internet needed. One OpenAI manager posted that GPT-5 had found solutions to multiple classic ERDOS problems. It read like a field-defining breakthrough. Mathematicians stepped in immediately. Thomas Bloom, who curates ERDOSproblems.com, explained that open on his site simply meant he personally didn't know the solution, not that the wider literature lacked one. GPT-5 had surfaced known results the curator had missed. Nemi Sasabis called the episode embarrassing. Jan Lekun mocked the hype. The post came down, the wording softened, and the story shrank to its useful core. GPT-5 is strong as a literature scout. Terrence Tao has been saying exactly that. AI speeds up searches, cross-references scattered terminology, and trims the grunt work. It can still stumble on hard proofs, and humans still vet what matters. That's not a failure, it's a precise role. Meanwhile, Google did a bit of historical housekeeping in public. At Salesforce's annual event, Mark Benioff asked Sundar Pichai how it felt when a small San Francisco shop stole the spotlight in late 2022. Pichai said Google already had a chatbot in the works and big AI investments queued up, but didn't think the product crossed the bar the Google brand demands. The day ChatGPT launched, that calculus changed. Inside Google, leadership called a code red, pulled teams toward deployable prototypes, and accelerated the path to Gemini. Fast forward to now, and the company is emphasizing scale beyond models, in-house chips, new infrastructure, and a giant AI hub in India that it calls its largest AI investment outside the US, built to run mostly on clean energy with subsea cables to back it. Pichai also confirmed that Gemini 3.0 is slated for later this year. It's an open admission that reputational risk delayed their first swing and a signal that the next one is bigger than an app release. Back to OpenAI's roadmap, the adult content plan was clarified again in a set of posts. Altman said the team initially made ChatGPT restrictive to reduce mental health harms, that they now believe better tools let them loosen for verified adults without loosening safeguards for minors or people at risk, and that erotica was just one example of giving adults more control. He also said users will be able to tune how human the model sounds, from reserved to friendly. Critics met those lines with skepticism, especially groups that have spent years tracking the harms of pornography and exploitation. Their argument is blunt: even adults get hurt by synthetic intimacy. Guidelines remain fuzzy across the industry, and verifiable harms have already shown up in smaller chatbots. The subtext is that OpenAI is racing competitors who say no to this category, which makes the move look commercial first and ethical second. The company denies that framing and points to verification, opt-ins, and policy carve-outs as proof of restraint. The reality is that this will be judged in production, not in posts. There's one more thread tying everything together: reputational load. Every claim and rollout is now graded on a curve set by the GPT-5 launch. That stream with the wrong charts hardened a narrative that the model is fast and cheap, but not fundamentally smarter. In the weeks after, developers and researchers found more to like, yet the first impression stuck. The ERDOS flap then magnified the idea that OpenAI's comms leans ahead of the facts. On the political bias track, the company is trying to teach the model to stop being overly nice and start being sturdily neutral without sounding robotic, a small-sounding change with huge stakes in an election-dense world. And on the GPT-6 content shift, the brand is now on the hook for the hardest category to moderate at internet scale across jurisdictions with adversaries who love probing guardrails. None of that is impossible. All of it is costly. If Altman's line holds, 6 far better than 5, 7 far better than 6, then the next cycle has to show that capability step while avoiding a repeat of the rollout misfires and proving that the new policy boundaries don't collapse under the weight of their own loopholes. The market will measure that in trust as much as in tokens per second. That's the download for today. If this helped, hit subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.